I am more tired of COVID than anybody who's complaining about being tired of COVID. I'm tired of it taking my whole life away from me. To walk 5,000 steps a day.
This goal is a milestone after being bedbound for over a year.
I would get nauseous, feel like I was going to faint.
Doctors diagnosed her with long COVID. This means she had lingering health issues.
These ones are much harder.
After catching COVID-19.
Masking children is child abuse.
He's going to be traumatized because you put that mask on him and you don't let him breathe freely.
Very, very high percentage of people with COVID survive. I'm healthy, I'll take my chances. The actual overall case fatality rate, but 1.2% of an overall, for an overall case fatality rate in the world of infectious diseases is actually pretty high, something that we would take very, very seriously. But beyond that, we might ask the next question is, what might survival look like?
Most people will survive COVID, but survive doesn't mean the same thing as that you're okay.
They are the young long haulers, children with COVID. Most are able to escape the worst symptoms, but for frightened and frustrated parents in Chicago and across the country, there are new questions about this post-COVID syndrome. The 12-year-old's parents are tormented by his unknown prognosis. They say their once active child now struggles with non-stop headaches, fatigue, and pain.
A lot of the stuff that I like to do, I can't do anymore.
I was having chest pains that we thought might have something to do with my heart.
When I'm exercising, I always get short breath and I'm struggling to breathe.
I felt like my heart was going to stop. I used to be queen handstand. I used to be.
There are currently 117,000 children in the UK with long COVID, according to the Office for National Statistics, and 20,000 of them have been unwell for over a year. And these numbers are on the rise.
CDC estimates anywhere from 10 to 30% of people who get COVID will develop long COVID issues. Do the math. With nearly 80 million Americans getting infected over the last 2 years, that's anywhere from 8 to 24 million people with long COVID. Some of them won't get better.
This is a virus that's very, very contagious. It impacts almost all systems of the body. Our medical establishment really is generally unfamiliar with post-viral syndromes. And many times people whose illness doesn't resolve are just sort of pushed to the side. We know that SARS and MERS, two smaller coronavirus epidemics, that there are many patients who have had lingering chronic post-viral symptoms. Just a little background, ME/CFS has been called many things in the past. It's been associated with outbreaks of illness. The term neurasthenia was published in 1899. I think described something like this illness. Encephalomyelitis dates back a long time. We have lots of science showing Epstein-Barr virus, West Nile virus, a number of enteroviruses can all create a post-viral syndrome in some patients. You may have heard it called chronic Epstein-Barr or chronic mono, and the term chronic fatigue syndrome was started in 1988 after evaluation of an outbreak. So really we're describing a clinical presentation that's not a new illness. Studies have shown that it's worldwide and multicultural. ME/CFS criteria are a description of a chronic multisystem illness, likely post-infectious, with neurologic, immune, and metabolic dysregulation.
I can't hold things, I can't open things.
Yeah.
Like I look normal, but I feel like my body is like totally breaking down inside. I can't rub my son's back when I'm putting him to sleep.
Yeah.
And in your questionnaire, you also talked about fatigue, palpitations, muscle aches, joint aches, tummy pain, diarrhea, and
I think I took everything.
Things have not been good, and that's really familiar for us as post-COVID doctors, that people have a large number of symptoms.
My life before COVID, I lived a very active life.
Riding in heels.
I was a full-time international flight attendant. I traveled around the world. I was social with my friends. Was a part-time yoga instructor. Yeah, very, very different.
Can you talk about what your life is like now?
You need to take some time to grieve the life that you thought you were going to live.
Going from biking 10 miles a day and you can only walk 10 minutes a day. To me, that feels like the life of an 80 or 90-year-old.
This is what my life is like now. Walking in the basement for enjoyment.
Doctors told me that if I had COVID, to rest and I will be better in 2 weeks. And sadly, those 2 weeks have not come yet.
His son, daughter, and wife Karen all got better, but he still hasn't, and multiple doctors couldn't put their finger on why.
That was probably the hardest part, is just being dismissed by the doctors.
All of the other people out there who have been victims of COVID-19 are also victims of insufficient medical resources, huge amounts of uncertainty and fear, and unprecedented isolation and loneliness.
Now, I'm seeing a lot of this long COVID, which is really what scares me as well. So I just this week saw a child who used to be an excellent soccer player, and ever since they had COVID a few weeks ago, just getting winded walking up the stairs.
We worry about their ability to exercise and stay healthy and eat well. But there have been some kids that have been in the running for college athletic scholarships, but because of COVID have had a complete halt to their sport. That's no longer an option for them. And kids that have had to drop out of college for a semester because they just don't have the energy. So, these are all things that have long-term career and life, potential implications, or at least are additional barriers.
We see a number of people that were normally functioning people, very active, healthy, exercising, and now they just really can't get back to where they were, and months have passed.
As a result of COVID, I have to wear oxygen 24 hours a day.
Cognitive memory, teaching myself how to rethink, remember, and relearn.
My way up to it.
Dizziness while standing, pounding heart, difficulty breathing, and tiredness.
Exhaustion to the point where you can't remember your kids' names.
As often as it kills, it can also be completely benign. The great worry for scientists is that these so-called COVID long-haul victims might even bear the scars of the pandemic for the rest of their lives.
First glance at Megan Carmilani, and you'd never guess her backstory. As a child, she says she contracted mono twice and was left with post-viral syndrome, a condition she's been living with for the past 30 years. And then once COVID-19 came around, she noticed others just like her, which is why Carmilani decided to create a nonprofit organization for long COVID families.
This is going to be a national problem, and we need to do everything we can.
And that was enough to catch the attention of U.S. Senator Tim McCain, who has long COVID himself. Together, they worked to create the Care for Long COVID Act, a bill that would first set up a structure to catalog the many symptoms of long COVID, and then start research to help educate patients and healthcare providers.
It's going to, I think, be revolutionary for care. So that when people go to the doctor, they're no longer faced with blank stares of, I don't know how to help you.
But more than anything, Carmilani hopes people will help themselves first by doing their best to stay healthy.
As COVID-19 prevention is the best solution.
It is about health.
That's what really bothers me the most. People make it political.
And they each want everyone facing the same struggles to know that they're not alone.
There's probably a lot of other people out there like us.
Support groups have helped her navigate her new reality, but she wishes more could be done to help COVID long haulers. That's why she continues raising awareness about long COVID.
You were asking, why are we doing this? Because there are people that don't believe that this is happening. They didn't believe that Ian was having this. So this is the way that he has, to say, yes, it happened to me. It is happening to more people.
I just need to do this because not very many people are aware of the massive effect that it's giving to children and people all over the world, and it's just to raise awareness of COVID.
It goes without saying that a 9-year-old shouldn't feel she has to persuade people to take her chronic illness seriously, but she doesn't want what's happened to her to happen to anyone else.
Good job, Ems. That was brilliant. Well done.